Yes. Jokers to the right of me, clowns to the left. Here I am stuck with the middle of you. When you see the episode coming up here shortly, you'll understand why we picked this song today. So, again, for those of you who do not know me, I am Blair Armstrong. I'm with Team Armstrong Colwell Baker, located in beautiful Indian Wells, California. I am the co-host of the Old Guys Still Rock. In just a short moment of time we're going to go ahead and join a very good friend, if not my best friend for almost 30 years, Brent Wright of Brent Wright Incorporated. We also have a special guest that's coming on today is David Schreiner, who is an agent and team member on our team of Team Armstrong. So today was episode number 39. We're going to talk about identity. What is your identity in? What happens when times get dark? How do you keep your identity still the same? And how do you enhance your identity? So a lot of things to unpack today. This is a little bit longer episode, but we hope that you stick with us. As we said in the past, once in a while that we use certain words or we talk about certain different topics that will get shadow banned or throttled by YouTube and some other avenues. That being said, it's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. So it's really, really important that if you do like our episode, that you share this episode so we can kind of get this information out there. It's not about monetization. That's not what we're here for. We just have a message. We're tasting life with you. So again, if you like the show, go ahead and please share the show. Leave us a comment. We love that too. And if you haven't for some strange reason, hit that subscribe button. And we get notified when things come out like this. So again, guys, we really, really appreciate you. Super grateful for all the subscribers we have to this. Super grateful for all the comments you give us. And thank you for all the support. So strap in, hold on. We're going to be talking about identity, and we'll see you on the other side. Take care, and see you soon. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. We're back. We're Old Guys Still Rock. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're one of our returning subscribers, thank you so much for your continued support. We are in episode number 39 today. As you heard in the beginning.
Check that? Did you check that to make sure it's 39?
I'm positive, brother, because I know I'm one away from 40. So, but I know I've been keep saying we're 39, we're 30, 39, and I just want to get to that episode number 40 because every episode that we get further, the better that we are than most podcasts. So right. On that tie, as you said at the very during my introduction, you kind of heard me play that song "Stuck in the Middle." So I have on my right, jokers to the right of me, clowns to the left, whatever it may be, and I'm stuck in the middle with you. So, anyways, guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for last week. We had a great episode, some good conversations with Sean LaRue. He's starting off his own, which kind of spilled in some of the things that we talked about last week, really brought up this conversation that we're going to have this week, and it's about identity. And we're going to get right into it. Brent and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. And by the way, everybody, I'm so sorry about this. You're supposed to know who this guy is because he's been my right-hand guy for the last couple months and almost 2 years now. This is David Schreiner. David Schreiner is one of the agents on our team with Team Armstrong. 28-year-old kid learning life, cutting his teeth, probably one of the hardest professions you could do that in real estate, especially in our world. And the guy that is about 1,000 miles away is Brent Wright with Brent Wright Incorporated, one of, if not my best friend for almost 30 years, Brent Wright. So, brother, I kind of excited to try to jump the gun on this, but how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. It's been a good morning. I had a pre-coaching meeting with a new client, and it's interesting, especially in light of our topic. It's odd how the universe lines up.
It's God does some funny things lately, and I don't know if they're calling funny, but they're challenging things. So, dude, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's really good to have me on. So
yeah,
I appreciate that.
I'm glad you're here because you're kind of give us a different perspective today. I think we talk about Old Guys Still Rock. We've had some 40-plus-year-old guys. We've had some 50-plus-year-old guys. Actually, I guess Jake was kind of about the same age as David here. But so we're just going to get into it, man. But the kids, how the wellness center going? Good for you, bud? Brent?
Yeah, we're about ready to go full open on the gym. We're literally hours away. I need like 2.5 hours to finalize a few things, tidy some stuff up, and do some painting. But yeah, the wellness part of it's been open now since January 6th. Yeah, so the rest of it's going to be full open hopefully this week.
That's good. How's payroll?
Payroll is growing daily. It's an odd deal to take somebody from not having a sales team to having a sales team. There's some growing pains with all that. Mostly with the perception of like what reality is, right? Like it's to it matters what you do today, so that way it drives what happens 6 months from now. But you do something today, but you don't get paid today. And that's a struggle for some people to not see an immediate ROI, right? It's like exercise, or taking vitamins or any of those things that you could use as analogies. You put the work in today and you don't see the results for quite a while, and
Right.
it's frustrating to some folks to see that, especially when your checkbook is heading south. And
Yeah. So speaking of that, you're kind of in that same boat, right?
Oh, I could totally relate to that. Yeah.
You're putting in a lot of work, spending a lot of time, trying to build relationships in a business that you've never been a part of for a long time. How are you dealing with that?
I just kind of look at the alternative. I kind of look at it as like, doctors go to school for a very long time before they start, really prospering. And it's just the same with anything. I think if you really want to be embedded, especially in the areas that we are at, it's going to take time for me to build these relationships. But I know if I stay, continuous with this over the next couple of years, I can really build something with myself. So I kind of look at it from that aspect of it.
Do you find, and then Brent, you can kind of fill on this too for a little bit, but do you find the profession they're in and the people that you're hanging around with, do they question like what you're doing? Because, I mean, you're working a lot. You're not getting a paycheck really unless you sell something. I mean, that's what we're in. We're in sales.
Yeah.
So when they're like, dude, why are you putting in so much time and without any benefits to that? Because it's visual benefits to them, but maybe they see something different in you.
Yeah, I would just say, I kind of look at it as like I just have to trust myself and know that I'm doing, the best I can do. And, whatever everyone else has going on, regardless of it, I just keep striving to be 1% better than the day before. Every day is a learning experience. I have learned a ton over this last year and a half, and it just keeps accumulating. And eventually it will pay off. I think it's just comes down to consistency.
Yeah.
When it really comes down to it. So
to learn that at your age is huge. Because a lot of people are still not learning that at double nickels.
Yeah.
Right? 75 hard drove that really home for you, didn't it, Blair? Like
man. I mean, it's, I think that's one thing too. And I'm going to answer that question in this type of this stuff is a lot of people are asking me why, and maybe they ask you the same thing, Brent, but a lot of people are saying, why are you doing this podcast and stuff like this, especially when you're not monetizing this thing. But the point of it is that's not something that we need to monetize because you and me, Brent, we're kind of exposing our lives, as we call it, Therapy Thursday, in so many different ways. And so there's not a reason to monetize that. For the reason is we want to, for you guys the first time they're being here, and we probably will say this multiple times in the beginning, I said that usually in introduction too, but we shouldn't monetize something when we're going through life with David, with Brent, with all the people that follow us on stuff like this. There's not that part of it. And so we're exposing ourselves, being transparent and learning life with you. Brent's teaching me life. I'm teaching him life. We're teaching David life. And so, 75 hard was a big deal for me because it made me fight through so many different things. And that's where we kind of came up with the topic of identity and I think when I was talking to somebody today, when those dark times are happening, especially in sales, and it's not coming and you're still working and you're trugging and you're climbing that mountain and nothing's happening, where does your identity typically go to? Right? So do we lose our identity? Because social media, the news, magazines, whatever it may be, people that we see, when we're struggling, we kind of try to take our identity and be somebody else. And I think that's a big, big problem, because if we go too far down that path, once things start happening, do we change who we really are? What say you on that, Brent?
So, a couple of things. The reason why we're not monetizing this is because the monetization of this would distort the reality of why we're doing this, first off. Secondly, any money that we would glean from this would be the short-term payout for the long term. We'd be shortcutting the long-term payout for a short-term payout. No different than sales. What we do today pays out 6 months from now. And from an identity standpoint, my identity in sales is invest today for what you want to happen tomorrow.
Right.
Right. And it's not easy for a lot of people. We were talking pre-show about this. It's not easy for people to understand that or accept that, because everybody's in an 8-second society, 7 and 8 seconds. We've talked about that in previous episodes. It's everybody wants the payout today. If you look at that from a life and death scenario, and we believe that when we die we're going to go to heaven, but I'm not ready for that payout yet, brother. I'm just not. I'm just not. I'm going to do everything I can to stay on this earth as long as I can and impact people and my family and all of that. So that's the identity of the short term versus the long term payout for me.
I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm going to turn back over to David here in 2 seconds, but I'm just going to, do you feel, because we go back to that question you just asked me a little bit ago, how 75 Hard has changed my perception and the way that I look at things. Do you feel that from 15, 20 years ago, when you and I first met, is your identity different from then to now, or is it the same, just different? That makes sense.
I would tell you that I'm a completely different human being than I was 15 or 20 years ago. My identity's changed based upon the things that I've put myself in, put myself through, and the people that I've interacted with. I used to be a very closed off person. The podcast, although it doesn't scare me, and it didn't scare me then, I would have never even thought to do it. It would have been letting people into my world that I felt at the time didn't need to be in my world, and I didn't need to expose myself to that criticism, that critique, that visual. That I was living small in a scarcity mindset. My identity was do the minimal effort to gain the maximum result, and to not invest or engage with many people, because the payout was pain. And I lost relationships. I've lost family members, and I'm not saying lost as in they died. I just, people change, things change. I went through a divorce. I went through all those things. The person that I was when I got married the first time is not the same person that I am today that I got married the second time. I had to grow. I had to prosper. I had to change, or else I would not have saw the fruits of any of those labors. I'm a different person than the day you first met me. I walked into your office. I said, I want your business. And you said, you got to do these things to get my business. And I said, all right, we'll see about that. And you held steadfast.
Yeah.
And you're like, nope, BNI is the key. Go to my BNI group.
Okay, so I'm going to turn. Actually, I want to make sure that we're not leaving David out on this too. But I have some stuff, so I'm going to go back and talk to what you just brought up on my mind. So, David, here you are. You started with our team back when you were about 27 years old. Yes. About that time, right? Father, you're getting feedback now?
No, I said way back then.
Way back then, right? Okay. So, yeah, a long time ago. And then, if guys, you don't follow us on some different things with what we've done with Team Armstrong. So David, 28 years old now, has been in the business for just a little over a year, a father of 2 kids, 1 son, 1 daughter. Anyway, but grew up realistic. I don't want to use that word, but grew up. His world was in the service industry of being a waiter at a restaurant. All of a sudden, you come into, and I call this a big boy job. It's not downplaying what you are in the service world, right? With all that stuff. Now it's basically an entrepreneurship. Even though you're a part of a team, you're building your business, not building somebody else's business at a restaurant or stuff like that. You have said a couple things to me over the course of time, and especially something that stuck out yesterday. Some people came out to you and asked you, is like, I see a change in you. Mm-hmm. Was that good to hear? Was that hard to hear? Do you feel like I've had some good friendships in the past and now I'm growing? Is it hard to hold on? Is it hard to let go? Is it easy to let go? How are you feeling right now with you've had massive changes over the last year? How are you feeling?
No, completely. So, I mean, yeah, I would say like right now I'm what you would consider in no man's land, because not many people, at least in my previous friend group or age demographic, are maybe doing what I'm doing, at least in the circle I've been around. So yeah, there has been some changes. It's like, hey, I go to work, I come home, I'm up early, I'm doing different routines than maybe most people my age. I think like last weekend on Friday, when everyone was out, I was vacuuming my house and going to sleep early. So it's just a very different time period for me. But I know just, say no to things now so I can say yes to a lot more in the future.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of what keeps driving me. So,
okay. How do you,
which is
go ahead.
Funny.
Go ahead, Brent. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Funny because you're going to get on and I'll call it a hamster wheel, not in a negative way. Usually that's a negative connotation, but you're going to get on the hamster wheel of entrepreneurship. And you say that you're going to do the things now so you don't have to do them later. You're going to likely do more of them later than what you realize, because it is addictive to be in leadership. It is addictive to be in a positive way, in life-changing items for other people, right? So every time that you guys sell a house to somebody, it's a life-changing event. And that reward, that hit of adrenaline or cortisol or whatever is huge. I mean, you guys feel it and it's not, has it ever been about the check? Like when you guys get that check, it's like, oh man, now we got to go to work again. We got to do this again, right? But that little hit of adrenaline or cortisol you get when you change somebody's life is huge. And so I don't know that you'll ever really escape that if you are truly an entrepreneur.
That's good to know. I think too is that being in real estate, I mean, just from my previous jobs, it's a lot more purposeful. Finding someone a home, or even if it's a lease or something, it's a lot. It's completely different versus before. It was just kind of, hey, get in, work your 6-8 hours, and go home. This has a lot more meaning behind it. It's just completely different.
And I think too is Brent. Brent and I learn this every day. Is no longer transactional; it's relational. And to be good for what Brent is doing, especially with payroll, obviously with the body shop, the business that he's built up to it, even with your inside of a relationship with the marriage and your kids, everything is no longer transactional. Everything is relational, whatever.
Relational. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. That's why we call this old guy still rock, because sometimes I can't think of the words I'm trying to say. More ginkgo biloba for me. But anyway, I think that is, it's going to be an interesting journey, and I've seen so much, so change in you. And I actually brought this up, Brent. I don't know if you saw my reel yesterday on Instagram, but obviously he's been a main source of our team for a long time, and a lot of you guys know that and you see different posts. But I was blessed with a gift yesterday. He got me mental toughness from Andy Frisella. And,
oh, wow, good job.
And it's an awesome gift. And it was a little bit more monumental that he may understand, because what we talk about and is what your identity is if you saw my identity gosh darn, Brent, 15 years ago when I'm in Eugene and almost, started my journey down licking a gutter. And that's really kind of where my life was headed towards that time. And then having David and these other different people that have come into my life and investing in them, that's what my identity has become, is how we become a leader. So when you get this book and it's a gift of thank you for investing in me, it's a whole different meaning. And I think that's why I wanted to talk today about identity, because as I said, your identity 20 years ago, almost 30 years ago when we met, and then my identity back at the same time, and now my identity with him, my identity with you, my identity with all of the people that follow us. And when I'm talking at Bible studies and stuff like that, I'm not greater than anybody else, but my identity has changed because I don't think I realized who I was back then.
Well, you're greater than your old self.
Yeah.
David said it's the 1% every day, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I think too, I agree with that. I just think sometimes that we get lost. And then I think that is a scarcity mindset to me, my thermometer. And I don't know if you listened to Ed and Jamie Kern-Lima's podcast that I sent you. But sometimes when things get hard, we lose who we are. And what you asked me to do a couple episodes, probably 10, 15 episodes ago, I can't believe we can say 10, 15 episodes ago. You had me stand in a mirror, or, challenged me to look in a mirror for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I kept procrastinating. I do it for 30 seconds. I do it for 20 seconds. Well, I did it the other night, or the other morning. And I was struggling, bro, because this business will eat you up. Any business will eat you up and spit you out, especially when you're the business owner.
Yep.
And you start forgetting of who you are, and the old people telling you that you suck and you're never going to make it and you should do it this way. And, that relationship's not worth it. I told you you would be wrong if you would have kept on this. And so all that stuff starts creeping back in, and staring at myself in that mirror. And this maybe helps somebody else who's struggling with it too. And maybe this helps you out, or maybe it helps Brent out. I don't know. But staring at yourself for 3 minutes in the mirror and getting back and like, God darn it, God made me to have with a purpose. God made me to be great. I may have failed now, but he hasn't forgot who I was. And he didn't make me just to say, you know what, I'm out and go run away. So it's been, I'm blessed that you challenged me to do that. And I'm blessed that that stuck in my mind. So for you, those guys who are struggling, that maybe they felt like they lost their identity, I'm not a guru. I'm not a self-help guy. I'm not the Tony Robbins. I'm not an Ed Milet or Andy Frisella like that. And Brent would attest to the same thing. Stare at yourself and just get back to who your core values are. Staring in the mirror. I know that's a little bit long-winded, but that's why we do this stuff on Old Guys Still Rock. You guys, we're a freaking community. And one thing that we do, especially with men, is we start stacking problems and we forget who we are. So that's my pedestal for right now. I'm sure I'll have another one in this episode, and I didn't cry. So that's even better.
Cry? Did you, well, you're kind of like Billy Bob on Varsity Blues. You're a bit of a crier. So
I was, and I held it in today.
But I actually, after about a minute the first time, minute and a half, minute, 20 seconds, somewhere in there, I actually started to kind of well up a little bit and start feeling emotional during that process. And really the key is to sit in that moment. As one of my mentors says, just sit in the crap. When you're in the crap, just sit in it and just stop trying to tread water. And that's the purpose of that exercise, is just to really sit in where you're at emotionally, where you're at spiritually, where you're at physically in that moment, and just sit in it. And the hard part is we don't, as humans, don't sit in our stuff very long. We try not to. It's a fight or flight. And in that staring in the mirror, you want to go to fight or flight. Did you not feel that?
Oh yeah, man. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I'm not liking what I'm looking at right now. Yeah, I'm out. So let me ask you this, David. I mean, we're going to go back to this. Have you, first of all, when times get tough, what is your response? I mean, again, what are you doing to kind of keep fighting through this time? And I know that we're still talking about identity, but I think this is a big part of it. When you're struggling, and I know that you came to me a couple of days, like, this is freaking hard doing what we're doing. So what are you doing to not lose sight of who you are and who you want to become?
I would just say, yeah, definitely. There's some days that I'm here and I'm just like, oh my gosh, why didn't this person call me back, or why didn't I get this listing, or whatever it may be. And sometimes it keeps me up at night. I'll be good all day, and then I'll sit in bed, and then everything will just start unwinding, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I know I have to put that to rest. Just keep being continuous on what I'm doing. Maybe try different things, and just reaching out and growing, and just if I don't give up now, if I can make it during the hard times, the good times will even be better.
Right.
So that's just kind of what really keeps me going.
I hear you say these things, and I know that's what you're really good at learning. And we do leaderships. We do leadership once in a week, and that's really you're instilling in yourself. When the chips are getting heavy right now, and you've had a lot of them as of late, just to trying to fight through getting your business up and running. How much are you really believing in that? And how much are you really instilling that in your stuff? That we could talk about it. And this is, again, just be super transparent about this, because that's why we do this show.
Yeah.
We can talk about it, but are you really instilling this into your identity, or is this just trying to get you by?
Oh, no, it's definitely instilled in my identity. I think being true to myself on where I'm starting or where I'm at right now, and then just kind of as I'm growing, I can, get those little rewards, as to say, just being true to myself, knowing where I'm at. And I think that's just super important to be just true with myself.
Yeah. So I don't like this. By the way, I don't like this angle of the camera here.
No.
No. This is why we get to be real on here, man. Anyway.
Side, right?
So Brent, I think that, that's a big thing. So going back to now, we're talking to a 28-year-old who's, we've basically, I always say, engage, equip, empower. And those are kind of the 3 steps to kind of get people up and running and doing some different things. So yeah, we have a 28-year-old here. What about the guys that are our age, Brent, right now that you and I have talked to them over the last couple of days? We've had Ken McCumber, massive transformation of kind of where he was in his career, and now switched over to a new company, had a major health scare. Last week we had Sean LaRue on there, struggling, major transformation. How is what David said, maybe like, well, he's 28. He's got a lot of time to fix some stuff out. Now we're talking about the 45 to 50 to 60-year-old guys that are in that right now. I have a good friend that's older than me, and she just found out that she's getting a golden parachute. She's not ready to be done. And now she's scared, like, what's next? And I feel, and then that's kind of where I said is that drain starts getting bigger, and that water keeps sucking down that drain a little bit. And that's where I'm afraid that people our age, and even at David's age, that we lose our identity because now we're fight or flight, and we go back to what we are.
Yeah, it's no different than, I talk to friends who are empty nesting now, and they're like, for 20 years, all I did was schlep kids around and soccer this and basketball that and football that. And now they're gone, and I'm sitting here in this big house that I work my tail feathers off to get, and I don't know what to do. Like, well, what's your passion? What do you want to do? Well, I don't know. But you got to first define what your day needs to look like going forward, right? Are you going to sit there and watch TV and watch Big Bang Theory all day? Or, what are your goals? What are your aspirations? Do you want to help? Do you want to, better your community? Do you want to volunteer? Do you still need to make money? What's your plan, right?
Yeah. I think that's, so those of you guys who are struggling out there, I feel kind of you lost your way. It kind of usually starts with the lost your way again, not an expert here. I'm just sharing you what I've experienced. Brent sharing you what he's. So anyways, if there's You may or may not have saw what just happened on air, but if there's a little glitch in the system, it's not the matrix.
Yeah.
Just had to do some editing. But anyway, so going back to what we talked about of, staying on and not losing focus of who we are or losing our identity. I guess I go back to, and the reason why this has stuck out to me so much, you read in Exodus about Moses. Moses was one of the only guys that really got to talk to God personally, and you can believe that or not believe that, whatever. But he also didn't have the confidence which comes with identity, because he couldn't speak clearly, sometimes like me. And so he had other people help him get the message across. He relied on Aaron to get to all the stuff like this. I see people living on the street, and Brent, you and I talk about this a lot. We're one decision away, right, from living on the street. And I think that comes down to is we forget who our identity is, or we've been beaten down so much. If you really peeled back my onion, getting to where I am today for how I was brought up, wasn't a bad life. It's just that I was led to believe this is the way that life is supposed to be, and this is what your identity should be. And it's for me, it's not right. I was forced to live in somebody else's identity, and it's really hard to realize that at 52 years old, that that's a wrong identity. I'm glad that David's seeing what you have, and Brent, I think that you've kind of maybe went through that for a little bit as well. Is when you're instilled when somebody's telling you to instill their identity into your life, it really messes things up for a lot of people.
Well, identity, it could be taken a lot of ways. That's why I asked you when you said that you wanted to have this as our subject is, like what's the backstory on it is what I always say. And so I don't believe that, we're just a product of our environment. There were things that happened to me when I was growing up, that happened to you, that happened to David when you're growing up, and you find yourself doing those things and then catching yourself now and going, okay, is this the best use of my time? Should I be doing this? You have kids, right? So should I be doing this with my kids? Because it didn't work for me. Is it going to work for them? Probably not. Well, let's have a talk about that, right? It's not really, I don't believe it's identity as a noun. I believe identity is a verb. It's about action.
I would like to touch on one thing, Brett, that you said, surrounding yourself with the right people. Like, since I've met Blair and the people he's kind of introduced me in or shed light into our world, it has changed my perspective in the way I communicate and engage with everyone. It is a huge difference in my life, just surrounding yourself with the right people on a consistent basis.
Yeah. The guy that I met with this morning, he's like me, just a normal average guy, blue collar individual. And he put himself in an uncomfortable position. And 7 weeks ago, he started doing a writing 101 course. So that way he could better articulate himself. He didn't know, he's like, I've learned so much. I've put myself in a spot where I can communicate in a way that is, sorry about that, guys, more beneficial and more effective than any other way that I've learned to communicate in the past. And it's changed his trajectory just in the last 7 weeks.
Yeah.
So
you just brought up something. You just triggered something in my mind. You said that here's this guy, I'm guessing pretty successful.
Yeah,
right. And you have this. He realized something, that he wanted to be more articulate. And I think I'm going to go back to, obviously we're sitting here talking about identity. Sometimes we can become complacent in our identity. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Turns it into a noun instead of a verb.
Right. I'm like, hey, this is who I am, blah, blah, blah. You can't change me. You're right. The people who say that, you're absolutely right. We can't change you. However, going back to our basis of faith, our foundations of faith is, God did not, and I go back to what you said too, is as great as I look at identity as a verb, right? I think I had that correctly on there. Yeah, identity is a verb, because we're on this constant journey, and it takes for us a long time to figure out too, is once we start feeling complacent, that's when it should be a trigger to go ahead and find something to get us to the next level. And that's what's coming to me. I was, hey man, everything's good. Everything's fine. I'm going to stay right here. And then you start allowing different things to come in.
Well, they say that growth is painful, and that's how you know you're growing. I believe complacency is painful. Because when you're complacent and when you're comfortable, that's really when the world smacks you upside the head.
Yeah.
That hurts worse than the discomfort of trying to change.
Yeah. And there's just so many different things that we can take there. I think that, for the guys that I'm around with and in my world, and some people don't have this world, and that's okay. Everyone has a certain circle. And I'm going to go actually ask you this is what I see is like, okay, we're getting to a certain age and then we're going to shut it down. And you and I have talked about this in the past. It's like, you see those guys that shut it down and start playing golf every day or up in the card room every day in the country club life. Love to have it. But that also scares me. I don't want to be that guy, because you're like, hey, I worked for 60 years, 65 years, God bless you. But there's just so much more after that to do, is taking that wisdom out that we talked about. So how are we going to increase the identity for you, especially the world that you come in? And you and I have talked about this. You have a great group of friends that you've met over the last 12, 15 years actually probably about 12 years, not even that much. How long have you been working? I'm trying to make this guy a lot older than he really is.
Right. I would say, around 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Spot on.
Okay. So when you started working at 15, some of those guys are still in your life. So guys or girls are still in your life.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Is it frustrating to you to see them staying in the same spot?
No, not necessarily. Like, sometimes I know those people can have better jobs than what they currently have, but also too, some of those people are really comfortable. Maybe they have a spouse that works a lot more, and they're okay with where they're at. They're like, hey, I could have this better job, but you know what? If I have the job that I have now, I can take my kids to soccer practice, football, and all that. Kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, Brett, they just got really comfortable, and that's okay. I mean, if I grow and I move in a different direction, that's great. I've also had one person tell me a while back too. She's seen me grow over this last year and a half working with Blair, and she's like, hey, when you start doing better and you need an assistant, call me. Like, I want to grow with you if that's something to look into. And that's amazing to hear, especially at the stage in life I'm at. So that's how I look at it.
With that last comment, Brent, what would you say to that person? Call me when you get more busy.
No, the time is now.
I knew you were
if they're really wanting to invest in you and become an assistant to you and things like that, they will find a way to become your assistant before you need them.
That's good to hear.
And maybe that's a coaching opportunity for you, for them, right? So you could coach them and say, this is backwards thinking. I don't want to get an assistant now. I don't want to get an assistant when I need one. I want to get an assistant now so we can grow together through the process. Maybe I don't need to pay you 40 hours a week and can't afford to pay you 40 hours a week now, but could you do side work and we could talk about 2 hours a day, and then you could grow with that person.
That's a really good way.
Yeah, dude, I knew that's what you were going to say, so that's why I wanted to leave it to you.
The time is now. It's
right.
Like, you're going to wait until you're successful to hire somebody? No, because that's going to hold back your success for the next stage.
Yeah, and I'm going to use, and going back to which we were just talked about a little bit earlier, we're going to we're actually going to wind this down. Not kind of. I use that word kind of too much. But we're sitting in our men's Bible study the other day. There was a guy that he grew up without faith. And he's kind of some guys have surrounded him as of late. And really kind of showing him some different sides of having a relationship with God. And it's been challenging to him because he feels it coming, but he hasn't been raised with that. And now he doesn't know how to share that with his family and his friends. I think the big part about this, and then, you know, if you go back to, can you hand me that book right behind you? Yep. So for those of you guys who know, this is actually comes from this book, and this is kind of where I use this. So getting this wisdom out there and then sharing it with other people. And that's what, when we have this type of stuff, do we want to share it with you? It's not just something that instilled something into me to help me go ahead and help somebody else and helped him as well. But what I looked at is maybe you are the one. Maybe you are the one that God has put into this. Like, I know that you didn't get raised with it, and I know you didn't raise your kids with it, you know, as up to it. And it doesn't matter that you're 70 years old now. Maybe it is your time, because that was been your true identity that you just didn't realize, to go ahead and share that experience of what it's changed your life. I'm using an example of faith, right? I'm using an example of a relationship with God. It doesn't have to be that way every time, but the point of it is sometimes that we don't realize what our identity is until later on in life, and that being the one, as Ed Milet says on here, can have a ripple effect for generations that you'll never be able to see. And you and I have talked about that in the past too, you know, be the one, right? But that's why, as I said to you, is your identity is like, okay, I'm just going to kind of do my work. I'm going to do this stuff, even though even though I have this inkling to really follow this relationship with God. Again, using this as an example, kind of what happened with me. It's scary to be the one, to not, and knowing that your identity is changing, and to go out there.
Am I worthy? Am I worthy? Am I the
Right.
one? Is this my calling? This, nobody knows, right? Because everybody's trying to figure out who they are when they grow up. I mean, I don't care how old you are. If you're 80 years old, you're still trying to figure out who you're going to be when you grow up.
Yeah.
Right. And when you find it, that's probably a hint and a half, because you're probably going to die that day. So
God said, I finally got you to where you need to be. Now it's time to come with me.
Yep, exactly.
See you later. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, man. And I know, David, I hope that you got something out of this, brother. And I know that we sometimes, especially me, I get a little bit more, soapboxy, which means I stand here and talking about stuff. So any final thoughts for you, kind of identity, if you're going to share something with your kind of age group from anywhere from, 25 to 40, what are some of the things that you've learned so far in the last year and a half, 2 years, concerning identity, to help people to become better, or when they're struggling, do these types of things? And
you got to start today. Don't wait. Don't keep putting things off. I think too, is you guys talked about earlier, is you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Me being new into this industry, there's a lot of people that are a lot more seasoned than me. Mm-hmm. And then just even speaking to you guys have a lot more knowledge, but being willing to be in that room, knowing you're not going to be the smartest person too. Mm-hmm. And that's sometimes a hard pill to swallow when you've been in another job or whatever you were doing beforehand, and you're just comfortable at that stage, mm-hmm. learning to grow. So it can be uncomfortable, but just keep striving forward. So yeah. I think that's a big thing.
What do you think, Brent? You think he's got something going on?
Yeah, action. I mean, first off, I remember when I was 28, and it feels like yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I would tell you that if I would have made some of the changes that you're making now, then I'd be in a different spot right now. I'm in the spot where I'm supposed to be at. But what I can share with you is cheat codes. And I, again, will offer this. I offer this to Sean. Mm-hmm. If you need feedback or need coaching or need one-on-one time with somebody besides this ugly mug, you call me, and I'll be there for you.
Yeah.
I want to tell you that there is, nobody was there for me. Mm-hmm. I had to find the cheat codes on my own, and no different than the video game. You got to go through it 75 times before you find the cheat code, mm-hmm. right? But if somebody shows you once, then you're like, I don't know if this game really is fun anymore. So maybe you don't want the cheat codes, and maybe you want a little bit of them. But either way, I'm here for you. If you need to chat, don't hesitate to reach out. I had an opportunity to chat with somebody the other day. They said, I listen to every one of your podcasts. I follow you. I watch what you do. I see the things that you say, and I see the things that you do. And now I'm doing a little bit of business with them. And I have an opportunity to reference the reason why I do the things that I do is because I say them and I hold myself accountable to them. And so I had an opportunity to share with this person. I said, I'm only trying to do the things in our engagement in this business venture together that I talk about and that I do and that I post about. Otherwise, I wouldn't be the human being that I'm trying to be. And so I would tell you one big cheat code: be honorable in all of your interactions, be honest, even if it hurts people's feelings, and take action, like you said. Don't hold back, don't stop, burn the boats at every corner. And that's why we're one day away, right? We're one day away because we're burning the boats every day.
I appreciate all the insight.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of good stuff in this today, brother. Again, when you guys watch this, you guys are living our life vicariously through us. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're just sharing our life experiences, and that's why we put this podcast together. We're not a guru. We're building a community. That's why Old Guys Still Rock, is that you can still teach an old dog new tricks. And we hope that some of this resonates with you. Yeah. If you're struggling, obviously if you really want to check us out and who we guys are, we're a phone call away or we're a text away. It's pretty easy to go ahead and say, who are these guys? Listen, we're just an average Joe Schmo guy that we've tasted life. We've licked gutters. I've lived in a 300-foot box for 7 months. I learned a lot, and I'm constantly evolving.
That was a lot bigger than my truck.
It's a lot bigger than your truck. That's still not property. So the guys of those, again, this may be the first time that you've seen this episode. Definitely go back and watch our past episodes. I think today is an involvement from episode number 1 to episode number 39. I think there's a lot of things in there you can take back, and like these guys may be consistent on certain messages, but it's a constant message of getting better. And today we talked about identity. You're going to have some hard times. I get it. And you may be going through a hard time right now, or you may be struggling. How do I have this or that? Or how do I keep up with this? Don't worry about keeping up with anybody else. I've tried that with my life, and it's freaking detrimental. Be you. God made you special. God made you to be great, and you have a purpose in there. And I'll go actually one last thing to do with it stuck in my mind. That's why he created the Tower of Babel. We could have all been one person and live in this one identity, but he created us all. And when the Tower of Babel hit, we all became different languages and different nationalities and different cultures, whatever that may be. That was on purpose. And we all have the purpose of coming together and using our different cultures and coming together as one, but using the wisdom from all different parts. So I know that got a little deep. I know we went a little bit on faith today, but that's our basis. So again, we're going to, as Brent always says,
go make a damn difference.
Go make a damn difference, guys. We love you so, so much. And we thank all of you that have followed us. We always thank you. Brent gets a lot of feedback on here, through his friends and family. I get the same thing. Hey, we really like when you're doing, keep on doing it. Yeah, great. One thing, as I said at the beginning of this in the introduction, we once in a while, and this one will probably happen because we talked about God a little bit, or I used the wrong word. We do get shadow banned and shadow throttle once in a while. So sometimes on YouTube, it is what it is, the world of AI. We might not get the message out there. So if you're a subscriber to us, please share the show. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button right now, but continue to be a part of this. If there's any way that we can help you, Brent, how do we get a hold of you?
Linktree Brent Wright. You can message Blair on the YouTube channel or the Spotify channel, and he can get a hold of me. If you want to be on our text list, so We have a number of folks. Blair started this. It was a great idea. He texts them the link to our podcast every week. So if you want to be on that, we can send that out via text. If you want to be on that, let one of us know. We're happy to share that with you.
All right, brother. Is there any way they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is, you could always reach me on Instagram, David_Team Armstrong, or just check out our website at www.teamarmstrong.com, and all my information is there as well.
Perfect. All right, guys, we're going to get the heck out of here. We're going to go make a damn difference. Until we see each other again, stay safe, but most of all, God bless, guys. Take care.